107B2. 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 Okay, 107B2. Amar Rabbi Asi. It says Rabbi Yosi, but in fact it's Amar Rabbi Asi. Okay, it's on the left-hand column. Before we begin, we're learning today in the Zechus Rabbi Yosef ben Sarah, that would be our dear friend Jeff Karp, who's going through bypass surgery this morning. He actually texted me this morning, so he's in great spirits. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless him with a quick refuah shalema, bypass surgery. And he should have a quick refuah shalema, and he should be back here with full force, like the bionic man, with brand new, fresh, as they say in Yiddish, frische koiches, fresh strength. Also, we are learning today in the Zechus of the Neshama. My mother's sister passed away last night. The Levaya is at 11. She also suffered from dementia. She suffered from dementia for a very long time, but she was also very in her strength. She was a remarkable woman. Rivka Bas Tzvi. That the Neshama is L'Havan and Aliyah. Okay, so the Daf Kuf Zayin Amid Beis 107b2 says the Gemara. Amir Rab Asi. The Gemara says Rab Yosi, but if you look in the Bach, he switches it to Rab Asi. Amir Rabbi Asi. Avo Matbil Hu B'Mine Tagui Nimo. We just finished saying that you're not allowed to eat Erev Pesach in order to have an appetite. In order to have an appetite for the night, for the Seder, whether we're talking about Mincha Gedolah at 12:30 or Mincha Ketana at 3:30, either way you got to stop. But when saying stop, we don't mean that you should fast. We mean you, of course, can dip and eat various types of refreshments. In other words, you're allowed to have, which Jerry was so kind to get me, for an example, what he called croissants. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jerry. So, croissants you're allowed to have. Rabbi Yitzchak, croissants. Excuse me, we have a Frenchman right next to us. Rabbi Yitzchak, matvil biyarke. Rabbi Yitzchak would dip and eat vegetables. You actually see from over here that Jews have been using dips with their vegetables. Not just, this is not a recent phenomenon, like a dill dip or a Caesar dip or a garlic mayo. It turns out that we've been dipping for a long time. Taninami hachi, hashamish matfil b'pnei mayim v'noisen l'pnei orchim. On Erev Pesach, the waiter would dip small intestines and serve them to the guests. Even though we don't actually have a proof that you're allowed to have like these desserts on Erev Pesach, we have a suggestion. Shenema, miru lochem nir v'altazu el koitzim. Plow for yourself a farrow and do not sow thorn bushes. In other words, if you want to get to the seeds, you have to open up the ground to get to the seeds. Same thing here, we're saying, by starving, you're not making your appetite. That's just going to take what by eating a little bit, it opens up, it whets your appetite. That's the idea. It opens up the intestines. Rabba would drink wine all day long on Erev Pesach, so it would whet his appetite. In order to eat matzah in the evening with more relish. What about the dalet koses, the 4 cups? The answer is, don't worry, if you're a drinker, you can always find room for 4 more drinks. Okay, Amar Rava, how do I know that wine whets the appetite? So this is a very famous thing. When the Tanoim and Amarayim did things, they didn't just say, because we do it. They say, I have to find a spiritual reason behind it. It's not because we learned. And now we're on today's daf.
It's a fact.
Right, it's a fact. But they didn't like just facts. They wanted to take the physicality of the world and bring into it spirituality. Or to quote the words of the Rav Sachs, our job is to bring Hashem, heaven, into earth. We bring Kaviyach HaKadosh Baruch Hu down by taking. So if we have a breakfast here in the morning that Jerry so kindly is sponsoring at the Redigan, it's not a breakfast. It's to help us. It's to help us to learn. So all of a sudden, the breakfast has a sanctity to it. Isaac's brother is coming to join us. So the im rotzel now. So we go like this, and the Gemara says like this. It's not because we learned in a Mishnah, and we're on Daf Kuf Ches Amid Aleph. Today's Daf 108A1. Bein kaisis halalu, between the first and second kais, or the second and third kais of the arba kaisis, of the four kaisis. Im rotza lishtais, if you want to drink extra cups of wine, yishta, you're allowed to. Ben shlishi l'revi lo yishta. Between the third and the fourth kais, you're not allowed to drink. Now the reason for this is very simple, because the first couple of kaises are before the meal. So if you want to whet your appetite, go ahead and whet your appetite before the meal. Afterwards, the third and fourth is after the meal. If you drink then, it looks like you're adding on to the four kaises, because that is not coming to whet your appetite. The amrit misayit sayid. Now, if you should say that one who drinks wine satisfies, and therefore you're not going to lose. You're going to lose your appetite. Amai yishta. Then why are you allowed to drink? You'll come to eat the matzah with an achilas gasa, which is excessive consumption, which, as we said yesterday, in fact, excessive consumption is not achilas gasa loy shemei achilo. Stuffing your face is not called eating, and you wouldn't be yochiyah of eating matzah on the night of Pesach.
Even Yom Kippur,
and even on Yom Kippur, the flip side, you wouldn't be chayav on Yom Kippur. So if you stuff your face erev Yom Kippur, and the night of Yom Kippur, you put something else in your mouth, you wouldn't be chayav, because it's not called a ma'aseh achila. Not that it's something you should do anyways, but don't worry. Elo shma mino migar gorir. Learn from here that wine simply whets the appetite. It doesn't fill you up, but it does open you up inside. Rav Sheshis, on the other hand, Yosef betanisa kol mala the Yomi de Pesach. Rav Sheshis would fast all day long erev Pesach. Everybody take a look at Tosfos, the second Tosfos on the page. Rav Sheshis Yosef betanisa lav dafka. It doesn't mean that he fasted. El shoyme atzmai meilachol. He watched himself from eating. He drank, but he didn't not eat. Inami. No, he was mekabel on himself. He took on himself a tainus. And he was careful not to eat, and also that he should have a complete appetite. This is the reason why I wanted to show you the Tosfos. The firstborns, the firstborns are noyig to this day to fast on erev Pesach. Kitani b'misechta Seifrim. De'ein misanin b'Nisan ela ha'b'chayres be'erev Pesach. We do not fast in Nisan except for the firstborns on erev Pesach because of makas b'chayres. They were saved from makas b'chayres. But this here is the Gemara that sort of is where the minig comes from. Today, what we do is we do a siyum. This year, the siyum is actually going to be Mesechtes Pesachim, because Mesechtes Pesachim finishes on Erev Pesach. Now this year Erev Pesach is Shabbos, so of course you don't fast, but we're all going to finish on Friday and make a siyum on Friday. And in fact, I happen to know that Rabbi Gibber plans on making a siyum in one of the minyanim, and I do believe that the President Emeritus may be asked to make the siyum in a different minyan. Okay, in honor of our Daf Yomi here. Okay, anyways, but the fix is not in, so you don't know anything about it, Charlie. Charlie, we can't hear you.
But there is no But there is no fast. It's not like
No, there is no fast. This year there is no fast. There is no fast. No. This year there is no fast. So, Nemo, do we say that we say that Rav Sheshes was fasting on Erev Pesach? Nemo, because of Rav Sheshes, are we saying that Rav Sheshes says Samoch lemincha gedoyle tanan? That our Mishnah means by 12:30, near 12:30, you have to stop eating. By 12 o'clock, you have to stop eating. Mishum pischu, because the carbon Pesach till Mishcha Basilama le'imuye le'ebe pischu, for fear that he might become involved in his meal and forget to eat, and to forget to bring the carbon Pesach. The Sabaloki Hadi Amar Rabbi Shi Amar Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Sheshes holds like Rabbi Shi in the name of Rabbi Elazar. Machsha Hayibet Beseir Bepesach Sheshachtu Shachris Barabasa Lishmai. Then Beseir said, in fact, if you want to speed it up and you want to bring the carbon Pesach even before Chatzos, you want to bring it early in the morning on Erev Pesach, it's okay. Because the proper time to bring the Pesach starts in the morning. The Kula Yoima having the Pesach. For the whole day is in fact fit for slaughtering for the carbon Pesach. The Savar, because Ben Beseira holds, this is of course according to Shita's Ben Beseira, Bein Ha'abayim. But what it means, Bein Ha'abayim, Bein Erev the Esmo, Erev the Adino, between the darkness of yesterday and the darkness of today, i.e., in the daytime hours of all day of the 14th. Now again, this is only Ben Beseira, and what we're saying, maybe Rav Sheshes holds like Ben Beseira. Says the Gemara, we're on 108A2. Amri to say no. In fact, no. It could very well be that Rav Sheshes holds you have to stop eating from 3 o'clock in the afternoon near Mincha Ketana. Shani Rav Sheshes, the Eastern Nisari. Rav Sheshes was a very delicate person. To eat toim b'tzafra, if he ate food in the morning, in the evening, food would not please him. In other words, Rav Sheshes was a man who ate one meal a day. That's it, and that's all he did. One meal a day, and that's it, and that's all that he did. Guys, I think I'm going to take a minute break. I got to go get my plug. Is there a plug here? Because my computer's about to give out. I just left it in the car, so you guys just got to.
You brought your mom to do the bed. Mrs. Greenstein, you came also for the Daf Yomi here.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think Isaac's on board. Isaac should be also on board here.
He's on.
Usually he's on. We'll see in a second.
Yeah, I don't see him.
You don't see him?
No, someone else.
That's Isaac's brother. Isaac Greenstein's brother.
How are you? How's everything? I was going to ask you just a practical question.
Okay. Give me a second. Here we go. Sorry about this, everybody. I can see my computer was about to go. There you go. Okay. This is not charging. Hold on. Okay. Good.
Charging? You got the red light there.
Yeah, it should be charging. Yeah, it is charging. Perfect. Ah, Dolly, I can see you. Very good. Here we go. Okay. So, here we go. So says the Gemara, no proof that he holds from Mincha Gedolah, maybe even from Mincha Ketana. Shani Rav Sheshes, the Eastern Nishabi was very delicate. The Toyim B'Safra, Midi the Urta, Holoi Havi Masni Michlo. He ate something in the daytime. That was it. He was done. He was like my father who walks in and says, I already had breakfast already. That's it. I can't eat any more meals. That's it. Eastern Nishabi. There we go. Says the Gemara Mishnah Baita.
That's why he looks so good.
What?
That's why he looks so good.
You heard that? That's why you look so good. There you go. Even the poorest guy in Klal Yisrael has to lean when he's eating at the night of Pesach, because everybody is free. That's it. Says the Gemara. What are the limitations of leading? Itma, matzah tzarech hasebo. Matzah needs a sebo, but mora ain't tzarech hasebo. But mora does not require a sebo. So what is going on over here? Mora is eaten as a remembrance of the slavery. By definition, if it's in memory of the slavery, that doesn't require reclining, which is a sign of freedom. Matzah is the lechem oini, the poor man's bread. That's also what we ate in Mitzrayim, right? So it's also a remembrance of slavery. But because there's the other side of matzah, that they didn't have time to bake, to make it rise, and they went out with matzah, we're looking at the positive side of matzah. What is the positive side of matzah? That we didn't have time. We ran out to freedom, that you don't waste your time, which is a lesson in life. That in many things in life, you can look at it the negative side. The glass is half empty. We had the matzah when we were in bondage, or you can look at it, the glass is half full. We say you're always looking at the glass is half full. We're going to look at the matzah side of it as on the freedom side of matzah. Yayin, regarding the 4 kaises, Itma Mishmei the Rab Nachman Tzarech HaSeba. According to Rab Nachman, we do require HaSeba, and of course that's the way we hold. The Itma Mishmei the Rab Nachman ain't Tzarech HaSeba. And we learn from Rab Nachman that you don't need HaSeba, which we also hold. And the reason for that is exactly what we're about to say. V'loi pligi, ha betrei kaisei kamei, regarding that you have to lean. That's regarding the first 2 kaises, kais 1 and kais 2 of Magid, that bracket Magid, that bracket, we drink the first one at the beginning, Kadesh, and the second one is drunk at the end of Magid, at the end of us telling the story of the freedom, of the Exodus, when we're Mekayim the mitzvah of Sipor Yitzias Mitzrayim. We were only singing the songs, and we were already Mekayim the mitzvah where you don't require. Some explain it this way, and some explain it this way. Trey Kosi, the first 2 cups require aseba, the hashtahu the matchila loyicheres, because this is where our freedom began. Meaning that this is where we begin. We've been doing magid. We're telling over the story, right? We're telling over this. The first kais begins it, the second kais ends it. Trey kaisu basrei loy boyaseba. What happened already happened. Now we're just singing songs about what happened that I don't have to lean. But Ami Leila Haigis is just the opposite. Adarabo. On the contrary. Trey Kisi Basrei Boya Seba. The last 2 cups need aseba. Need reclining. Hahu Hashta the Kochabi Khairis. Because now it's the reality. Now we're in freedom. Before we were going into freedom. Now we're free. Trey Koisi Kamei Boya Seba Takati Abodim Hainu Koma. Because we would still, it's how do we start? Abodim Hainu Lefare B'Mitzrayim. Now the Gemara says, Hashti the Imrat Hachi the Idma Hachi. Now that we have 2 good reasons, one going one way, one going the other way. ID Boya Seba, both require aseba, but the Rishonim get into this. That what happens if you do drink the last 2 kaises and you forget to do aseba, whether you have to go back and re-drink those 2 kaises, that already is a question in the Rishonim. The first 2, everybody agrees, must be done with aseba. The second 2 is somewhat up in the air. Now, pirakton loishmei aseba, lying on one's back. You say, my back is hurting, and you decide to lie down on the couch, that's not reclining. Okay? Haseber yamin lo yishmei haseber. Reclining to the right is not haseber. The reclining is to the left. And we all know the health reasons for that. And in fact, to see where the Gemara is going. If you lean the wrong way, the windpipe is going to precede the food pipe. And you're going to get the sakana. Good. We're on 108.83. Kofches and Aleph heading towards the bottom. Says the Gemara, Isha Eitzel Bala, Loi Boya Seba. A woman in the presence of her husband. Right. The women in the presence of their husbands do not have to, are not required. They're allowed to, but they're not required. Because of Eines Bala. Because of obviously not an art. This is before Haman, who blew this. What do you call it? Before the aim, because they're supposed to have a certain amount of oil for their husbands. Halavai. However, if she's a prominent woman, and since all our wives are prominent women, that's it. Well, it's a richa. She's required. So I want to show you something. The first language is Eichabala loy boyi. She doesn't have to. The second one by Isha Chashuva says Saricha. She has to. And since all our women are considered to be prominent women, right, by definition, they are required to do aseba. Then they
at the end says,
sorry? Be careful.
no, not the notion means good. It's not a
Profit. It's not
big profit. It's not the way that women don't usually do.
Right. So I will tell you this: if in our world, of course, the women do lean. However, if they should forget to lean, don't make a big deal.
No, what we lean is nothing.
It's nothing. Well,
Because we sit on chairs.
yeah, but they
In
said,
those days,
they said on couches. Okay, like the Turkish Ottoman Empire. That's exactly right. But you still have to lean, even in our world. You have to lean. But it's a zeicher. It's really a merit. Anyways, Ben Eitzel Avu Bariya Seba, a son in the presence of his father, is required to recline. Now, why is that? You have to be mechabed your father, and it's not respectful lean in front of your father. But the answer is because your father has a chiyuv to be mechanech his children, and part of chinuch is haseba. So the covet of the son, meaning by definition, is the father is being mekayim the mitzvah chinuch and it's being mechabed. The question really becomes: Iboyelu Talmud Eitzel Rabbi, a Talmud from his Rebbe Muvik, is he allowed to lean? Just that, right over there, Daddy, right over there. Tashmat, and this is what I spoke about yesterday at the Boca Koilot on this topic. Tashma, the Omer Abaya, Ki Habinu Beimar, when we were Talmidim in the academy, in the yeshiva of Rabbah, and we went to the Seder with Rabbah, Zimnin Abire did Adadi, we would lean on each other's knees in fulfillment of reclining. Lean over like this, reclining. Ki Asim Lebei Rav Yosef, but when we came to the yeshiva of Rav Yosef, Amalon Loitzrichitu, you do not need to lean. Moira Rabach ke Moira Shemayim. I talked about this yesterday. The fear of your Rebbe is like the fear of heaven. And just like a Jewish king, the halacha is Melech Yisrael Shemoichel al Kevoida is Ein Kevoida Moichel. A Jewish king who forgives on his own covet, it does not work. You still have to give him covet because it's not his covet, it's covet Shemayim. It's signed Tassim al Melech. Hashem is Mechalek, takes away a bit of his own personal covet and gives it to a Jewish king. That's why when you see a Jewish king, you make the bracha Shecholak Mechvaydai. But when you see a Goyish king, you see the president, you say Shenosan Mechvaydai. Because a Jewish king, it's not his covet, right? It's not his covet. It's belonged to him. This happens to be in our Makna, in the Sefes Kedusha. The Haflav talks about this extensively. Anyways, says the Gemara, Vaita Meisvei Imakol Odomiyase, if a person reclines in the company of everybody, Afilu Talmud Eitzel Rabbi, even a student in front of his Rebbe. So you see, I have a Baraisa that argues Ki Atanei B'Shulei de Nagore. This Baraisa is talking about vocational schools, where the Rebbe is not a Rebbe in Lumudei Kodesh. He's studying Lumudei Chol in secular studies to become a carpenter, an apprentice. Iboilahu Shamish Mai.
That the Gemara didn't answer that he's talking about a Rebbe that's not moving.
Right.
Is a liar that even by a Rebbe that's not moving, you're not
allowed to do it. What's the reason? Because a Rebbe that's not moving, certainly we said yesterday, cannot be Michael on his covet. Because every Talmud Chacham, there's a global mitzvah to have respect for him, to stand up for Amos. It's not totally in this person. So in other words, Rabbi Soloveitchik, because he was your Rebbe, you specifically had a mitzvah not just to stand up Dalet Amos, but in fact stand as long as your eye could see him. But every Talmud Chacham, Stamazai, you automatically have to stand up Dalet Amos, because that's not a cover that's totally in him. That's global. So he can't be Michael because that's not his cover. That's the Briskerov. Again, I spoke about this yesterday. And that's Kovedat Torah. That's what it says over here. That's why the Gemara here was only asking about a Rebbe Muvik and not a Stam Rav. A Stam, so let's say Rabbi Gibber is the Morid Asher, but he's not our Rebbe Muvik, right? He's not allowed to be Michael on his cover. It's not so simple for him. He cannot be Michael on his cover because it's not his. We're honoring not him. We're honoring his Torah, and that doesn't belong. That's not his. So, what about a waiter? If a guy is hired as a waiter for the night of the Seder, does he go ahead and lean when he's drinking? Tashma, Da'amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Hashamish she'achol kazayis matzah shu miyatzav yosef. A waiter who eats a kazayis and alabalim matzah while the reclining is mekayim his obligation. Miyasav in, lo miyasav lo. If he doesn't recline, he's not. Shema mino b'ya sebo shema mino. Okay.
It's really two separate mitzvahs. The mitzvah of the Afilah and the mitzvah of the Hes.
So my father just said that it's because there's two different mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah to eat and there's the mitzvah of Aseba. In fact, not so pashut. So Machlokes Rambam and Rosh and Rab Chaim in the stencils, Rab Chaim Soloveitchik in the stencils, has a whole write-up of this, and it's based on this Gemara that we're about to learn. Is it two different mitzvahs? So that I'm Mekayim the mitzvah Achila, but you're Mekayim today. The mitzvah Aseba I have not been Mekayim today, or no, in fact, that by not being Miyasiv, I have not been Mekayim the mitzvah of Achila whatsoever. Remind me to show it to you when you get back home. It's actually amazing. They're very good. You're just from Machavim to a Machlokes Rambam and Rosh. Exactly. Says the Gemara. And on this Gemara right here. Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Noshim chayovis ba'arba koises halolu. Our women are mechuyev in the arba koises. Why? Sha'af heim hoya oisa b'neis. They too were in the nes. Take a look at the Rashbam. We're now on 108b1. Look at the Rashbam. Sha'af heim hoya ba'isa nes da'amah b'mesechta soita. V'schar noshim tzedkaniyos shahayu ba'isa hadar. Because of the schar, of the worth of the noshim tzedkaniyos, of the righteous women of that generation, negalu, we were freed. V'chein gabe mikra megillah, oma hochin mishum da ayidei Esther habe. V'chein gabe Chanukah, Masechet Shabbat Loshin Merenu Alevi. That what he called the Him Chanukah is when Yehudis you killed. Now I'm going to just make a point here. You notice the Gemara says, "Af heim hoya ba'isa nes." That means the women were part of the global nes.
Well, they were also the end of the triumph.
That's right. But what does the Rashbam and Tosfos say it? What does the Rashbam say? No, they did. They did the men's work. Remember, they did the men. Yeah, they went into the fields, and the men had to work in the kitchen.
Right.
That was the pasuk.
Yeah.
But look at the words of the Rashbam, and Tosfos sort of brings us down to which means not because of globally they were part of this the bondage and now they were freed, but that's passive. This is a positive. That in fact it's only because of them that we were not in the Galu. This difference is a major conversation in the Minchas Chinuch Siman Chaf Aleph, Mitzvah Chaf Aleph. There is a difference, and what this means regarding them. In regarding to the thing, Tosfos says, "Sha'afhem ha'ibais name ilav ha'itamo lo'habi chayebes mishum denoshim petureis mitzvah sasei man grama," because women are potter from mitzvahs time established mitzvahs. Afal got the arba kaisis the rabbanon, even though the 4 kaisis are only the rabbanon, as an asmachta, as a connection to the 4 l'shayin yishadulas, the 4 languages of freedom. Ke'ein di'araisa tikkun. So there's a lot more going on in this line, because Aphem Hayabais Hanes means they were all part of the days of bondage into freedom. But if you go according to the Schar, Noshim Sekonius, Shemaisa Adon Migalu, that means it was all in them. They were the whole catalyst, right? And that changes everything. There's some soifa on this. I don't remember it totally. I spoke about it many years ago. But there's a lot of, as they say in the word, raids. A lot of words written on this, what's really playing out over here. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, we're almost done. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, and I'm sorry because
when it comes to these things,
yeah.
Women are much stronger than men.
Yes.
Because they lock them up. The
Emotional.
A man would collapse from this thing.
In fact, this is why it says, it's not good that a man should live alone. It doesn't say it's not good for a woman to live alone. Because in fact, the Gemara understands that women inherently have a greater strength of pulling it together. Men fall apart. That's the truth. And that is part of it. There are many halachas built into that reality. I think
this is what Hashem means. They, because of them,
they are the catalyst.
They propped up the
right, and the Mefarshim seem to say that there's a lot more than just Afhem Ha'Yiv, which is a much more global thing. In fact, I could say this, that the fact that us Zimmermans are here is because my grandparents, with miracles, ran around France one step ahead of the Gestapo. All the miracles came through my grandmother. All of them came. The fact that they got hidden for 2 years in the attic of a communist couple in the middle of the Marseille is all because of my grandmother. The miracles came through my grandmother, and she was the powerhouse. That's the truth. And my mother's mother, of blessed memory, was also the powerhouse. And as we all know who really wears the pants in the house. Whereas my wife likes to say it, you're the head, but I'm the neck. I'll tell you where your head should turn. And that's it. And that's Jewish. That's Jewish life in an essence. Okay, so anyways, there you go.
That must be why I always have neck pain.
Yeah, I know.
Where is Sharon?
Yeah, okay.
He's playing golf.
Good. You gotta let me know these things, Charlie. I won't say everything out. Anyways, here we go. So here we go. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, Arba Kaisis Halalu, the 4 Kaisis, the 4 cups. Sarah Shei Behen Kedei Nizigas Kais Yofa. It has to contain enough of the pure wine to mix a nice cup. What they did in those days was 3 parts water, 1 part Yayin Chai. Yayin Chai is pure, concentrated wine. Strong wine. Okay? And there's a difference. Because strong wine, drunk by itself, is not freedom's wine. It's too strong. So the perfect mix is 3-to-1. Okay? Right. So it goes like this. Shasa Chai, if he drank pure wine, Yotza, he is Yotza, his obligation. Shasam b'vas achas Yotza. If he drank all 4 cups together, he has fulfilled his obligation. In other words, he went right after Kiddush, he drank 4 cups, he fulfilled his obligation. I don't know if he's going to make it to Magid, but at least he filled his obligation to drink the 4 cups. Hashka behen levana levnei beisa yatsa. If he gives out from his cup little bit to his children and to his household, he's yaitza. As long as the cup is drunk up, the revius that you have to drink of the cup doesn't have to be drunk all by you. It could be shared. Says the Gemara. Shmuel said if one drinks pure, he has fulfilled his obligation. Amarava, this is what he means. Yedei yayin yotza. Your obligation of drinking the 4 cups you have been yotza. Yedei cheres lo yotza. But you have not fulfilled you have not fulfilled your obligation for cheres, because while you technically drank 4 cups, you certainly did not drink it in the way of freedom, which it's not a pleasant drink. Shalsa, and again, there is a lot of writings on what exactly does this mean, Yedei Cheres, and what does it affect? What exact is that? According to this, there is a mitzvah inherent in the night, not just simply of doing the mitzvahs, but within it to do it for Cheres, which seems to be a separate mitzvah over and above the actual mitzvahs. And again, comes to your question: does you make kind the mitzvah, but you're not making the cheres, or in fact, but no, the cheres is so strong that if you don't do it with cheres, you haven't actually been making the mitzvah. And again, this is all part and parcel of how you learn up these gemara. You're outside the day cheres, you're not, and that's the break. That means there's 2 separate things. Shasam b'vas achas, when Shmuel said you drink it in 1 shot. 4 kaises together, you got the occasion. Rabba, Yedei Yayin Yotza, Yedei Arba Kaises Lo Yotza. Once again, over there you fulfilled your drinking wine because you drank the wine correctly. 3 to 1, 3 parts water, 1 part, 1 part Yayin. But you didn't do it in the terms of the 4 kaises, which is before Magid, after Magid, before you start singing Hallel, after you finish singing Hallel.
I think it's so clear.
Yeah.
A cup that's so big that it holds 4 reviers. So you drink a little bit reviers, and then you wait, and then you drink another reviers. So what he's saying, it doesn't matter because it's all in 1 cup. It's considered like 1 cup.
So that is not right. So that's not right. So that's one way of learning it, but it's not everybody's way of learning it. The Pashib Shah, that's one way of learning it too. Is, in other words, my father's saying, is it totally in cups? You have to have 4 separate cups, or do you, if you got a grande that has 4, a big gulp, a big gulp of 4 reviuses, does that cover it as well? So is it tied to the kois, or is it tied to the volume of your drinking? If you share it with the members of your house, you yaitza. Provided that he drinks most of the cup, he has to drink a revius of the cup. They can go ahead and take it further. Over here is where we're going to stop. These 4 cases need, each one has to contain a pure wine of revius. Echad chai, not 3, but pure wine. Echad chai be'echad mozik. One fulfills his obligation of the arba cases, whether the wine he drinks is pure or mixed with water. Echad chadosh ve'echad yashan, whether the wine is new or aged. Wine new or aged is not as flavorful. It has chadosh, it hasn't had time to cure. And yashan is something that's more than a year old that begins to turn into vinegar. He says it's all good. Rabbi Yehuda matzara tam umari yayin. It has to have the flavor and the appearance of wine. It can't have started to turn brown. It has to remain red. Kahani niyas kedei revius. But in any red
wine.
Red wine.
Red wine. That's why you don't eat white wine.
That's it. And then,
by the way, that's one of the reasons why in the Middle Ages,
right?
They didn't use red wine. They used white wine.
Speak up. In the Middle Ages they used white wine
because of a blood libel. If they were to use
with the red wine, right?
the guy made
And blood libels, you should know, lasted into the 1900s. The last blood libel that we know about, they still mention it today, but the last actual blood libel was in Russia, was in the Pale of Settlement in the at the end days of the Tsar of Nicholas. There was already what he called. There was still blood. So within the last 100 years, they still had the blood libel. Ketani mi is kedei revius at amr kais yafa, and you said a nice cup, which is only a quarter revius of pure wine, 3-1. Amri aidi chad shiru. Truth is, it's all the same thing. My kedei mezigas kais yafa. Come out. What is the meaning mixing a nice cup that Shmuel says? L'chol chad v'chad. That in each cup, the habile kula revius. That all 4 cups together equal a revius. Each cup is 3-1. 3 parts water, 1 part revius. 4 cups, a quarter of a revius of pure wine times 4 equals 1 revius, and that's what you got to eat. Very good, everybody. Let's go. Let's just one last part of the what it goes. Let's go to the last part. Rabbi Yehuda, amen. Sarich shehei by tam umare. Rabbi Yehuda says it should have flavor and appearance of wine. Amarava my tamid de Rabbi Yehuda diksiv, and this is where we know about the red wine. Altera yayin ki yisadam. Do not set your sight upon wine that is red. Okay, it's a proverb that says don't overindulge on wine. But in fact, this is where the Rashbam says those words, Umara sheyehei edaim, that it should be red, and that is why red wine is the preferred wine. Nonetheless, if you can't stand red wine, take white wine. And if you're supposed to have wine that is not Yayin Nesech, because Yayin Nesech couldn't be brought, Yayin Nesech, that means wine with sugar, which couldn't be brought onto the Mizbeach, onto the altar. You're supposed to take Yayin that's not Nesech. But if you have a goy in your house, so if you have a cleaning lady that's there helping you with the Seder, you have your kids over and you hire a cleaning lady to help you, or let's say you're doing the Seder in the club, right? Do not do Yayin Nesech. And in fact, yesterday I checked it with Reed Shapiro, and he's making sure that the wines for Friday night and even for the Seder are all mevushal, because you run into the problem of any mevushal. And certainly, by the way, there is no problem using grape juice. If you are not going to be able to enjoy your Seder because you drink a cup of wine and it goes to your head, and so by the
It's
time
light
you
wine. It's light wine with 6%.
so then you go with cow. Cow, right? You look at the cow, 3.5 to 4%. You can do very light, but even if that bothers you, mix it with grape juice, whatever. The most important thing is this is a chumrah. We should never get mixed up. We do chumras, stringencies start and end, and the halacha begin. The halacha is you got to drink 4 kaises. You can do the 4 kaises with any kind of grape juice and wine. That's the reality. The mitzvah in Amechubra, the best way is with the red wine that's not mevushal and doesn't have sugar, dry wine. I can't stand dry wine, so I can never do dry wine. So I do the cow. I cannot, and I can't do Tokai or any of those ones. So I do one that was much lower. And the truth is, the last few years, I added more and more grape juice because I find that by the time I get to the Suda, it just goes, my head is going like this, and it helps no one.
I do that when I get to the third.
You get to the third cut, yeah. So it happens to me. My Rav in Brooklyn, I see the Shurab, cannot handle wine at all. And he just does grape juice from the first one. So because that's the whole idea. The worst thing you can do is the guy who's so frum, and he drinks the first 2 kaises, and then he falls asleep right in the middle, and the whole thing, and everybody gets aggravated in the whole thing. That's not the goal. Very good, everybody. I will see you from Brooklyn, God willing, tomorrow. Go to everybody.